Well, good morning to all of you that are hopefully enjoying the day off. My goodness. No one likes a Monday unless, of course, it's a holiday. And today is a holiday. Wasn't a great weekend for northeastern Oklahoma. Sure, many of you heard that my hometown of Claremore, Oklahoma was hit by a tornado, and it was disastrous, horrible. You can't get in or out of town because there's just so much going on. Minimal damage to families' homes, friends' homes. Thank God. Thank God. But there's a lot of people. Hell, I know everybody in the damn town. They're having problems finding generators, water, tarps. And so I'm buying up tarps left and right from Amazon. And I did not know this, but with the Red Cross, if you show where you're sending the tarps and everything, they will reimburse you. Not that I'm, worried about the money. I just think it's great that they do that. But yeah, I think there's 23 people still in the hospital, and some had to be transported to Tulsa. It was horrible. We'll talk about that here in a second. First, let's talk about Memorial Day. Yeah, we got our hot dogs, we got our hamburgers, we got the pool ready. Funny story before all this hell broke loose Saturday night. Greg got me a pool for my birthday. It's kind of like a Dawn and Candace type of pool, all right? It's not anything spectacular. And I could tell he was not wanting to put it up. And there's a lot of people that like professionally go around and they put them up. So I was calling for quotes, and all Greg had to do was hear the quotes, and he was a pool building motherfucker yesterday. You should have seen him. Woo! He was digging and stretching. Sounds like sex. But boy, he got that thing put up. All right, here's to Memorial Day. Just remember what it's really about. How about you? Because it was a tough weekend. My husband has got his phone turned way up in the other room, cutting up watermelon, and I can hear myself. Greg, can you please turn your volume down? Pool boy. Oh, pool boy. I'm right here. Well, I certainly need that inspiration. Another inspiring thing we're going to talk about today is our wonderful friend Avi is celebrating another trip around the sun. She's not in chat right now, at least I haven't seen her. Let's please tell the most amazing, talented, gifted, crafty card maker and amazing friend, happy birthday. Woo! Good morning. Happy birthday, Avi. It is Memorial Day. I did hear a lot of rumors about Sebastian's case over the weekend. And I'm up to my eyeballs in bullshit. I've got blue eyes that are about to turn brown from all the shit they've been feeding me. So I'm not going to go through that today. I think we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Now, I just want to warn everybody for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be on the road on the way to CrimeCon. Anything that's needed in my hometown, I can take care of from the road, because you know what? I can't, I'm not handy. I'm not good at rebuilding. I'm just not. But I can get people food, I can get people water, tarps, and all that stuff. So the shows for the next couple of weeks, you all know the routine. You've been through this before. When I go on vacation, are going to be kind of hit and miss. They might be at our exact time, 9 a.m. Central. They might be at noon. They might be at the end of the day. But either way, we're going to stay in contact. So before I get to the show, this is what happened in my hometown. It went from Claremore, Oklahoma, all the way into Pryor, into Spavinaw, Salina, and it was devastating. It was a direct hit.
Takes us into a campground on the east side, packed for the holiday weekend.
Sides ripped open, their belongings everywhere. Kathy Coffey's RV is no longer their home.
We have nothing, but that's okay. God had his hand on us because we could have been killed.
140 of the 190 spaces were filled at the KOA campground next to Will Rogers Downs racetrack in Claremore when the tornado hit. Minutes before, more than 200 people rushed to the shelter provided by the Cherokee Nation, which owns the property. You can tell from the condition of the RV right behind me that it's a good thing many people took shelter. Now the Coffeys, they were sound asleep when the tornado hit in that bed right there.
Next thing I knew, it was there. We couldn't do nothing.
Emergency crews pulled them out. Looks like you got hurt.
I did. Tore off a toenail. I got scratches everywhere. He's got scratches everywhere.
She and her husband survived when their home rolled over, and so did their dogs. But they can't find their cat or their phone. Nina Howery helped search. She drove all the way from High Hill, southeast of McAllister, to help. She grew up here.
We've been picking up a lot of stuff, finding some cell phones and handing out water, things like that. So whatever we can do.
Heavy-duty wreckers went from one camper to the next, righting toppled trailers like the Connors, who stopped here on their way home to Pennsylvania.
We thought it was going to pass us by, and it was direct hit.
The twister toppled their RV, and it can't be driven. They spent the night in the tornado shelter.
Advice for anyone is when there's a tornado warning, go get shelter, because we saw a lot of bloody people that either couldn't get there or decided to ride it out, and they got tossed.
As for the Coffeys, starting over feels overwhelming.
Can't imagine how hard it would be to look at this and think this is my life right here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just grateful to be alive. And so is my husband.
With no power and no water, everyone is being asked to leave until the campground can be restored. In Claremore, Karen Larson, 2 News, Oklahoma.
Horrible. Horrible. It's like going swimming in shark-infested waters when you have all of these people at the campground for Memorial Day weekend. You know everybody's out. Everybody's at the lake. They're camping. You know, they're out of the house. It is the first weekend of summer. And they're ready. They're ready to hit the water. Thank you, Connie. You are too kind. Thank you so much. And thank you, Pat. But it is heartbreaking. It is. And if you know anyone locally, whether it's the Sulphur tornado, Barnsdall, Claremore, Pryor, Salina, whatever, they need forms, to fill out for FEMA or disaster relief, unemployment, any of that. I can email them to them, lickety split. All right, now let's tell everyone, hola, it is Memorial Day. And look at the old stranger that just creeped in. A little bit late, but hey, you can sleep in on a holiday and especially your birthday. So let's do it again. Avi's in here. Happy birthday to the most fabulous Avi. Happy birthday, my dear friend, and I think you're going to like your gift. It's not as good as the gift you give me every day, and that's the gift of friendship. But I am so happy that it's your birthday and you're spending it with us. All right, this is an update show, so you know I'm going to be bouncing all around the place. We're going to start with Madalina Cojocari. There's a lot going on in her case, and she still has not been found. The FBI are heavily involved. They have a T3 trafficking team on her case. Her mother, in my opinion, sold her. She pled guilty to not reporting Madalina missing. The stepfather is on trial for not reporting Madalina missing. I don't know how that's going to go for him because he obviously knew when he got home from eating that dried ass turkey in Michigan and he got back to North Carolina, he knew Madalina wasn't there. Instead, it was a ping pong match. Have you seen Madalina? No. Have you? Oh, where's Madalina? Oh, I don't know. I thought you had Madalina. Well, I don't have Madalina. Madalina was gone. Now, there's sightings of her mother around Sugar Mountain and other places, while Christopher, her stepfather, was in Michigan. Also, there is a very sketchy cousin named Octavian who has done this sort of thing before. The warrants show that her mother wanted help to smuggle Madalina away. Now, we have a whole playlist. We have a whole playlist about Madalina. Please check it out because, you know, I talk about how just me, Susan, she's been so invested in the Harmony Montgomery case. And there's a case for everyone. The case of Madalina Cojocari really, really hit Kat extra hard. Take a look at this.
That the mother of missing Cornelius girl, Madalina Cojocari, might have tried to have her smuggled away, are shining a spotlight on the larger issue of familial trafficking. Local trafficking experts say that's when a family member helps to smuggle or traffic a person.
When a family member helps to smuggle or traffic a person. In my opinion, I believe Diana Cojocari, who, by the way, is going to be deported because she pled guilty to not reporting Madalina missing. Now, what happens to her when she gets to Moldova, I don't know. I don't know if she will serve time there, if they will deal with it, if Madalina is in her country. I don't know. But her ass is getting deported. And she likes America. Okay? She likes it. Even though she's a mail order bride, and I'm sure her and Christopher Palmatier didn't get along that well, she likes it. She likes shopping at the store. She likes drive-through. She likes all the stuff she was doing. And she's getting deported back to a country which is not going to be too kind to her considering what she pled guilty to. They haven't got to accusing her yet. But the warrants show she wanted help to traffic her daughter. And in these cases, I hate it when people just right off the bat go, oh, it sounds like trafficking to me. And I roll my eyes and I'm like, no. It's normally somewhere, it's someone close to the child. Someone's had eyes on the child. And it's normally for reasons we don't even like to think about. And this one is just beyond sick. And by the way, trafficking does happen. It's just not as common in the cases we talk about. But in this one, it did. The big question is, you see, in the country where they came from, trafficking isn't considered a big deal. So if Madalina somehow got to Moldova and she's over there working, per se, I got to be careful on the YouTube, is there a crime? Will they bring Diana back to America to make her stand trial? This is insane.
Those new details, by the way, on that Madalina case coming to light through court documents WCNC Charlotte obtained today. They're also weaving drug investigations into the storyline.
While we still don't know the answer to the 3-month-long question, where is Madalina Cojocari? Newly obtained search warrants show at one point the 11-year-old's mother, Diana, might have tried to escape their home with her.
As a mother, if I think something's happening to my child, you can almost like throw caution to the wind, those things that could happen.
Hannah Arrowood is executive director with Present Age Ministries, a Charlotte area trafficking support group. While she does not have direct knowledge of this case, she says new revelations from court documents showing Diana asked a distant relative to help smuggle her and Madalina away from her husband, Christopher Palmer, are not unfamiliar.
Now, I'm not going to argue the fact that Christopher Palmer was probably not that great to Diana. He probably wasn't that great to Madalina. That's not the way to do it, homegirl. That is not the way to do it. She's been in America long enough to understand they have community property. They are married. And she could have done things totally different. He went for Thanksgiving up in Michigan. He comes back, Madalina's gone. If she goes and stands trial in Moldova and says, oh, I did this to save my daughter from this horrible human being, good luck, sister, because in America, it would be totally different. Because you and him were out having a great time. You were shopping. You were buying gifts for each other for Christmas. You were decorating the house. You had plans to put an addition onto the house. There's a lot going on. So it's going to be kind of hard to prove that you were treated so badly when you're seen in public acting like you're on your honeymoon with Christopher Palmer.
Mom thinks they're just trying to get out of the situation that could potentially, whether it's a domestic violence situation or a volatile situation, that there are unknowns that they don't know how to prepare for that could end up being worse.
In human trafficking terms, Arrowood says this is called familial trafficking. It's when a relative is involved or facilitates. Search warrants show police said the family member Diana asked for help had phone records linking him to people involved in ongoing narcotics investigations. Police also noted in the warrant, narcotics activity can be associated with human smuggling. The warrants also show a police dog alerted twice on Diana's car for narcotics, and police found several identifying papers inside that car, like Diana's education certificate and work documents, and hers and Madalina's Romanian and Moldovan passports. While once again, we don't know the truth of the...
And look how beautiful Madalina is. What do you think she was trafficked for? To be a drug mule? For things we don't want to think about? I mean, all of the above. We don't want to think about any of them. What was she trafficked for? What was she trafficked for? SA? Drug mule? And the FBI said this drug trafficking and human trafficking a lot of times go hand in hand. This little girl did not deserve this. And for all we know, she might already be married in Romania or Moldova. And I don't want to get the people in Moldova mad at me again because they went ape shit on me when I brought up Diana being a mail order bride.
The case yet. Arrowwood says having a foreign background can play a role in decisions to find one's own route, rather than asking authorities for help.
Deportation, whether it's fear of separation, whether it's fear of not being believed.
Arrowwood says it's important for these folks to know this.
Here in the United States, we have protections. If you have been a victim of a crime and you're a foreign national, they actually have protections and actually can process your visa differently based on the fact that you were a victim of a crime.
Now, we'll remind you, Diana Cojocari and her husband, Christopher Palmiter, remain in jail for failing to report Madalina missing. Police say it was about 3 weeks between that.
Okay, I'm cutting it off there because this is an older clip, and Christopher Palmiter actually bailed out of jail. Diana's been there. And remember, she accidentally had fentanyl in her shower. She didn't know how it got there. She had no idea. So she's heavy into the rugs, if you know what I mean. Let's take a second and thank Love One Another and old DT Driver, who I'm calling Pool Boy right now, for making it rain and spreading the CLL love. If you received a membership, well, you know who to thank. And I really hope that ICE or whoever is over this case gets Diana Cojocari and her cousin Octavian out of America ASAP. ASAP. And start vetting people a little bit more than you've been doing.
Has entered a guilty plea for failing to report her daughter, Madalina Cojocari's disappearance. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. I'm Sarah French.
And I'm Ben Thompson. You'll recall Madalina was last seen getting off her school bus back in November of 2022 and hasn't been seen since. There are a lot of new details to get to you this morning. WCNC Charles Jesse Pierre now live in Uptown. She was in the courtroom this morning. Jesse, what can you tell us?
That's right. Well, Diana Cojocari, the mother of Madalina, changed her plea from not guilty to guilty this morning. Now, she has been behind bars since December of 2022, facing a felony charge for failing to report her daughter's disappearance to police. And after spending the max time in jail, she's expected to be released from jail today. Now, Madalina has not been seen publicly since the evening of November 21st of 2022, leaving her school bus. Weeks later, despite claiming not to know Madalina's whereabouts, Madalina's parents officially reported her missing on December 15, after multiple inquiries from Madalina's school and questions about Madalina's absence. Both Madalina's stepfather, Christopher Palmiter, and Madalina's mother, Diana Cojocari, were arrested and charged with a felony for failing to report Madalina missing. Palmiter was released from jail last August after his bail was reduced from $200,000 to $25,000. He had a court case scheduled.
Okay. For one, I cannot stand that smirk on Diana's face in her mugshot. At one point, she's got her head down. And let me tell you, she knows the laws because she knew to ask for a public defender. Then you see Man Titties walking out. They reduced his bond from $200,000 to $25,000. Or old boy, he owns a home. He can squeeze $2,500 out of that orange. I don't care if it's been sitting in the sun for 6 months. So they had a reason to reduce his bond. And I'm not taking up for the fool But I'm going to say right now, he is a fool. SL said Madalina always looked well kept, in my opinion. Absolutely gorgeous girl. Decked to the nines. Beautiful clothes, beautiful hair. And not to be grim, but it's kind of hard to traffic a child as a child bride or what have you if you got some scrubby kid. You know? I mean that's how it goes. And this breaks my heart. CZ said, I live in North Carolina, close to Madalina Cojocari's home. In fact, I pass her subdivision often. I haven't seen flyers anywhere in over a year. This story is so heartbreaking. Do you think people gave up on the flyers and the local advocacy because of what the FBI said about how they believe she's been trafficked? And they very rarely say that. Very rarely do they come out with what they've been doing.
Before today, that has been pushed to tomorrow. Today, Diana changed her plea to guilty. She has served the max time and getting credit for 520 days. And her release from jail has been granted this morning. Now, Cornelius Police was in court today, and they say they are holding out hope to find Madalina.
Good morning. We're not prepared to make any formal statements. I spoke to one of the reporters upstairs, and we're just thankful this part of the investigation is behind us and the search for Madalina continues. And as I've said many times before, we won't stop until we find her.
Now, Diana is not an American citizen, so she is facing deportation as well following this felony charge. And again, Madalina remains missing. Live in Uptown, Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
She really could have made this not totally go away, but she could have made it a little easier for herself if she would have used her communication skills to let them know this is what happened and this is why. It is very often that people come to this country and they bring their old traditions with them. And they do things that they think, well, that was fine in my country. And believe it or not, they do give them a bit of a break. But not old Diana Cojocari. No, she's going to get deported. And I hope somebody is watching her to see who she's communicating with. If she sees Madalina, there's going to be a lot coming out in this case. And I don't think, on one hand, I think Diana didn't want to get deported, but on the other hand, considering she kept her silence all that time, I think it might have been part of her plan. We shall see. Okay, next case I'm going to update you on is Corey Micciolo. We've talked a lot about him over the last few weeks. This little boy breaks my heart. Now listen, his grandmother was in chat this morning, and if she's still in here, she can come up and talk anytime she wants, because Rebecca Micciolo has done so much, along with her daughter Bree, to get Corey justice. Now, I do believe law enforcement was working really, really hard on this. There's just other things that they needed to do. What I'm beyond pissed about is that the defense attorney, he's not what you normally call like a Dino, a defense in name only. He's trying to say Corey passed away from an infection, and he's using a lot of jabs towards Bree and Rebecca. Victim shaming, and yes, I believe Bree and Rebecca are victims. I know some true crime creators will say things like, oh, the only victim is. No. No. Rebecca lost the apple of her eye. She lost her little grandson. And yeah, they are re-victimizing her in this trial. These are 5 critical moments in the trial. I'm going to put the link up. If my girl Rebecca is in here, she is more than welcome to come up and talk, because now the case is up to the defense. The state has rested. And I'm really on edge for the verdict. Because remember, you're talking about 12 people, 12 jurors, and they could all be dum-dums. If you have one dum-dum, that one can throw the trial. You can have a mistrial. We just can't make up our mind. It's beyond devastating. He did not die of this infection. We have gone through his autopsy before, and because Rebecca is in here, I'm not going to remind her of it. I'm not going to get to the nitty-gritty of it. But this was systematic abuse from Christopher Gregor on his son. And if anyone can drop the playlist in here for Corey Micciolo, I would really appreciate it, because I know some people are saying, I don't know this story. Everyone needs to know this case, because it happens way more than we know about.
There was nothing available in all the discovery and the medical records that were consistent with infection causing Corey's death.
That was a boom moment. When this physician took the stand, we're going to play it again. There was nothing to show that any infection is what did this.
My opinion was that there was nothing available in all the discovery and the medical records that were consistent with infection causing Corey's death, or even playing a role in it.
An expert for the prosecution in Chris Gregor's murder trial testifies about Corey Micciolo's cause of death. I'm outlining why another doctor is
Look at that child-abusing douchebag wiping his eyes. Look at that, pretending to cry, wiping the snot.
testifying and what she had to say about the 6-year-old and how he passed away. Thanks for joining me for Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Corey Micciolo's cause of death is going to be key in Chris Gregor's murder trial. Gregor is accused of murdering Corey on April 2nd, 2021, by causing major trauma to his little body that very day. But his attorney has claimed to the jury that Corey died from sepsis, a blood infection.
And you're going to hear testimony from doctors, experts. You're going to hear testimony from Dr. Larkin, who, by the way, Dr. Larkin has no skin in the game. This is a doctor that comes to the hospital. He's from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County. He has no idea what the relationship is between Christopher and Brianna and Christopher and Rebecca. He's got no clue. He just evaluates the child by science and medicine. Dr. Larkin found that Corey's blood results from Southern Ocean showed incredibly high white blood count, high glucose, and high lactic acid, and said that's all indicative of sepsis caused by an infection. The same sepsis that Jersey Shore Medical Center told Brianna Micciolo, do not take this child from the hospital. He possibly has sepsis. We need to evaluate him. Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County, his evaluation, you're going to hear evidence, sepsis, infection, not murder.
Gregor's attorney, Mario Gallucci, said the sepsis could have been brought on by pneumonia. But Dr. Annette Feingold, a pediatrician, testified this week that she reviewed Corey's medical records at the request of the prosecution and doesn't agree with that finding.
Now, after you reviewed all of that material, did you render an opinion with respect to whether Corey died as a result of some infectious process?
I did.
What was your opinion?
My opinion was that there was nothing available in all the discovery and the medical records that were consistent with infection causing Corey's death or even playing a role in it.
When you say nothing available, it didn't exist?
I didn't see anything that suggested infection.
And is that opinion to a medical degree of certainty?
Absolutely.
Dr. Feingold detailed the records she reviewed, including Corey's medical records from the night before he died. His mother, Brianna Micciolo, had taken him to the doctor and later the hospital to be evaluated. Corey had bruises, and Micciolo had tried to get an emergency court order to get custody of Corey, who had been living full-time with Gregor while she had visitation rights. A judge denied that emergency request for custody. Here's Dr. Feingold offering her opinion of the records from those visits, which took place less than 24 hours before Corey passed away.
Was there anything within those records that was important to you in regard to formulating your opinion that you're here to give?
Yes, so that visit occurred the day before Corey's death at about 5:20 in the evening. And at that time, Corey was described as having had no fever, no complaints of any kind of physical ailment other than the marks on his body for which his mom had sought evaluation. He was afebrile, so no fever. His vital signs were completely stable. And he, on physical exam, there was no abnormality. And in specific, the amount of oxygen in his blood was normal. He appeared to be completely well and have normal activity. His lung examination was completely clear, no abnormal sounds in the lungs. And so at that time, with a physician evaluating him, there was no evidence of any kind of infectious process.
Is it fair to say that was about 24 hours before Corey died?
Exactly.
Did you review the records from Community Medical Center?
I did.
And was there anything within those records that was important to you in regard to formulating your opinion?
Again, the findings were very similar. The vital signs were normal, meaning there was no elevation in his respiratory rate.
Dr. Feingold went on to detail how Corey appeared healthy the day before he died, despite those bruises.
The other important information that was gathered at that visit was that Corey had no evidence of a significant viral infection, respiratory viral infection. So he was tested for COVID. He was tested for respiratory syncytial virus. He was tested for influenza A and B, and those were all negative. So again, the conclusion reading this was that he was, a well-appearing child other than the bruising that was noted. And he was described by the nurses as alert, appropriate, and walking normally with a steady gait. So again, this being the third evaluation, so we have three, physical examinations by physicians all of whom believed that this child was, and he did look completely healthy other than the bruising.
And Dr. Feingold talked about a recording of Corey from the morning that he died when Brianna Micciolo dropped him off at Chris Gregor's apartment. Brianna Micciolo had accidentally recorded Corey on her cell phone for just 33 seconds.
Now, you had mentioned in the discovery that you reviewed that there was a video of particular importance to you. Could you tell us about that?
When I listened to the 33-second clip that was taken in the car, Corey spoke, not a lot, but he spoke to his mom. And
okay. Yes, the defense is throwing a lot of jabs, and that is for doubt. That's what they're looking for. It's so important right now what Corey's grandmother said. Dr. Feingold is a pediatric infectious disease specialist. She's explaining to the jury that what happened is not what the defense is trying to convince them of. There's Corey's grandma again. She said the labs 1 hour prior to death were within normal limits. No red flags, no infection. But that's what the defense is trying to push forward. And in the meantime, they're also further victimizing Corey, Bree, and Rebecca. And I'm furious about it. Look, I get it. Everyone's got a job to do. You've got to get your job done. But letting this pedo out of jail, and yes, I believe he is, considering what he did to Rebecca at a very, not Rebecca, sorry, to Brianna, Corey's mother, at a very young age, he should have been put away for that. If someone would have just listened to Bree and Rebecca, we wouldn't be here.
He had no shortness of breath. So, sometimes when people call us and say their child is having trouble breathing, and we'll say, put the child on the phone and see if they can give a full sentence without having to take a breath. Or the other thing that was notable was that he never coughed, and you never heard any other sounds except for the mom and Corey speaking. There was no wheezing heard or anything like that. But just, he clearly was speaking normally by report, and by the video, he sounded like, a regular healthy kid.
There's no moaning in that video that you
No,
heard.
no, none.
I want to take just a really quick break to tell you about something new here at Law and Crime. It's called True Crime Goods.
Well, at that time, he was obviously critically ill. He was described as ashen and very pale. He had what we call altered mental status, so he wasn't appropriately awake. He was described as somnolent, so that suggests maybe that something's going on in his head, or he's not perfusing well. He was disoriented. He was difficult to arouse. There was no wheezing, no crackles associated with pneumonia, no abnormality on the lung exam to suggest a pulmonary infection.
And those are all things that you would expect to see from someone that had a pulmonary infection.
Yeah, absolutely. And also somebody who comes in looking this ill, if this was due to a pulmonary infection, I would expect very significant changes in the ability to breathe and his pulmonary exam.
Ultimately, Dr. Feingold drew conclusions about Corey's death.
So in sum, Dr. Feingold, what, if any, conclusions did you reach whether an infection caused or contributed to Corey's death?
My conclusion was that there was no evidence that Corey had an infectious disease at any point, and certainly that was not his cause of death.
So there you go.
Hey, she's the expert. She's gone through all the records, all the labs, everything. She didn't take a Penn Foster class and do her classes from home when she had time. She's a medical expert. Again, a very important comment from Rebecca. She said, my grandson was fine. No DCPP involvement. No injuries until that monster came around. Also, listen to this. This is very important, and I forgot about this. She said, by the way, Corey had been injured on a treadmill at the grandparents' house when CG, that is Monster Gregor, lived there. But they lied about it, and they've always covered for that monster. This is a conversation we have had on this channel for I can't tell you how long, when we have said, you really want to cover for your son as opposed to getting justice for your grandson. Now, how sick is that? Grandparents, like Rebecca, used to walk through fire if they had to protect their grandkids. Be damned, my children. I'm going to protect this little one. Well, Mr. State Trooper and Miss Real Estate Lady, also known as Mr. and Mrs. Gregor, didn't do that.
Oh, Dr. Feingold agrees that sepsis did not cause Corey's death. The defense hammered Dr. Feingold about her opinion and her qualifications.
So why do we have forensic pathologists?
Objection, Judge. Is it a quiz?
No, it's a question. Why do we have forensic pathologists?
Sarcastic, Judge.
I mean, if you're telling me that
Your Honor, I just wanted to hear Your Honor's ruling on my objection.
Well, it's somewhat argumentative, I suppose, but you can answer her understanding of that if you want. You start asking other questions. So you were drawing that question.
I'll draw that question. So forensic pathologists took blood cultures and you said that they're not reliable. Forensic pathologists took a CAT scan. You said that's not reliable, right?
I disagree with your first statement. Forensics pathologists don't take blood cultures. Physicians treating patients take blood cultures when they present, or when they're in the hospital.
But you disagreed with some of the things that Dr. Odassa did, right? You said they were of no value.
I disagreed with a post-mortem lung culture.
Okay. You said it's of no value.
Right.
And the CAT scan of no value.
My understanding was that the CAT scan was ordered by someone else, but I might be wrong about that.
Okay.
But yes, that it's not interpretable.
So as you saw, things got a little bit sassy there. Mario Gallucci then asked Dr. Feingold about the last time she performed an autopsy. She said it would have been in 1979 when she was in medical school. She's a pediatrician, so her patients, of course, are typically alive. He's obviously setting the stage, Gallucci is, for the testimony of renowned forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden, who's expected to testify for the defense that Corey died as the result of sepsis. Then Gallucci asked a question that's pretty common when it comes to expert testimony.
You got paid, right, to review this case?
Not yet, but yes.
You're going to get paid for reviewing the documents provided to you by the prosecution, right?
I expect yes.
Okay. And you're going to get paid for discussing it with them, right? Or did you meet with Ms. Schran or Ms. Lento prior to walking through those doors?
Yes.
Okay. And when you met with them, did they discuss the case with you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if either one of them, I'm assuming neither one of them have any medical degrees. So did you explain to them the medical technology?
Yes.
You did so right here. When Ms. Schran asked you a question, you actually corrected her on the word she used, right?
Not on the word, but on the pronunciation of the word.
And I'm sure you're going to do that often to me right now. Okay. So, and you're actually getting paid to sit right here and testify for them, right?
True facts right here, Sinclair Reed. Now, I'm not saying the state doesn't have to pay for their expert witnesses. Normally, they're already paid through the state in some capacity. The defense pays big bucks for their expert. And don't think for a minute, Dr. Baden, just like that goofy bitch in Gannon's case, aren't going to be set up in a nice hotel overlooking the beach. He ain't going to have dinner, airline paid for, and it's going to be per hour to give this testimony.
chest. Right?
Yes.
Do you know how the medical examiner's office works?
What I understand is that the medical examiner is hired by the state, and when an autopsy is indicated, there's a question as to a patient, whether the death was natural or unnatural, then the case can be referred to the medical examiner to try to make that determination.
So you said something very interesting. You said that the medical examiner is paid by the state, right?
That's what I understand,
Okay, not paid by the prosecution.
as far as I know.
Well, Gallucci, this meathead, he's being paid big bucks deluxe by the Gregor family. Big bucks deluxe. To do what? Re-victimize Corey, Bree, and Rebecca, and frankly, play the smoke and mirrors game. He's being paid.
No.
So the medical examiner in this case was Dr. Lagasse, right?
Objection, Judge, misinterpreting.
Earlier in the trial, a pathologist testified for the state that he did not believe Corey died from sepsis.
Did you make any findings regarding sepsis or infection?
Once again, that issue came up on the initial examination. And based not only on the autopsy findings, but my review of the medical records, there's zero, not one scintilla of evidence of sepsis or any other infectious process in Corey's autopsy.
Dr. Thomas Andrew did not perform the autopsy on Corey, but reviewed records pertaining to it.
In my opinion, these injuries occurred at roughly the same time, and their age could have been as recent as 4 hours, but as old as 12 hours prior to when Corey actually died at 5 p.m. on the 2nd. That was the finding based on the histology. Additional evidence that I saw fine-tuned that time frame a little tighter.
And doctor, can you tell us about the additional evidence that you saw to fine-tune that time frame?
So if you think about that time frame of 4 to 12 hours, that would have been from 5 a.m. the day before to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 2nd. There was a video that was alluded to, and it wasn't an intentional video. There were no people in the video. You could basically see that the phone was on a car seat or something. And Attorney Lento, have folks seen this video? Do they know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So it appears as if the phone was like on a car seat or something. And it was represented to me that this was Corey's mother dropping him off for custodial care with his father. And they were having a conversation. Well, this was at about 9 o'clock. Corey was answering questions. He was conversational. He was normal. Audibly. So if that's at 9 o'clock, the period of time of injury from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, in my mind, is eliminated. A person with these injuries is not going to be responding like Corey would in the car. So that puts us between 9 a.m. and approximately 1 p.m. I can't narrow it down any more specifically than that, but I am confident that that is the range of time in which Corey was injured.
So this trial could turn out to be an epic battle of the experts, with jurors weighing the testimony of the various doctors and nurses, Corey's mother, Dr. Michael Bodden, and possibly and likely the testimony of Christopher Gregor himself. That treadmill video, while it occurred days before Corey's death, could also play a role in the jury's decision. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
And we are going to talk more about this case in this trial probably on Wednesday, maybe tomorrow, because I'm pretty fired up about it. Try to give you guys a little bit of a break. Will Gregor take the stand? I think he is that arrogant. Will he take the stand? And I agree 100% with Anjanette. I think it's going to be a battle of the experts. And that soap opera, Emmy Award winning testimony his father gave, Christopher Gregor's father, was disgusting. You don't force a child to run on a treadmill. And we already know that he had gotten hurt on a treadmill at his grandparents' house, and they did nothing about it. Cool Grandma 609 said for those in the back, no sepsis, no infection. And this is important to know too. You have 4 doctors versus Dr. Baden. Again, this defense didn't come to play. They didn't come just to show up and do a half-assed job and just walk their client through the process. This guy has made a deal with the devil. He is what I call Satan's secretary. He is there to purposely do the wrong thing for cold hard cash to screw over justice for Corey. All right, now we're going to move on to another update. And we're going to be back to this. We're going to be back to this. Don't you worry. We have done a few shows about Lacy Fletcher. As you remember, Lacy was an autistic woman, has Asperger's. Those are her parents down there. That's her graduating, circled. That's their very nice home in Louisiana. Her parents, several years ago, left her alone to go out. I think they went to Shreveport for the weekend, went to Margaritaville, went to play the slots and everything, which is not a big deal. Not a big deal. What is a big deal is that she had not been off of this couch in 12 years. You see, that couch is full of her own stool. That couch is full of her own pee-pee. And her parents bonded out of jail. And now they have pled guilty to manslaughter.
Factor Uncensored. This is a story out of Louisiana we first brought you last year, and hundreds of thousands of you tuned in on the internet and social media to see it. The parents of 36-year-old Lacy Fletcher, a woman whose dead body eventually melted into her family's couch, have pleaded no contest to
melted into her family's couch. They couldn't even, when they found her dead, they couldn't even get her out of the couch because her skin had bonded with the fibers in the couch. When I was first going to do this show, I gave our friend Susan, that's just me, one of the main mods, I was like, don't eat breakfast before this show. And she said, well, what the hell are you going to do, Brooks? I said, just don't eat breakfast. Look at that. That's the couch. Talk about neglect. And their whole defense was, well, she could have gotten up anytime. They had baby wipes, Cheetos, water, and Disney movies sitting next to that couch. And they had to smell that every day. How did that not permeate on them when they went to church, when they went to work, when they went to the grocery store? They did everything together, mom and dad, obviously not Lacy. Could you just imagine this?
Pleaded no contest to manslaughter in her death. Sheila and Clay Fletcher initially faced second-degree murder charges. In January of 2022, Lacy's rotting body, with her stomach filled with feces and foam, likely eaten from.
She was so hungry, she was eating her own poo-poo and the foam as she was sinking into the couch. They said she had, now this girl really did probably have sepsis. She had maggots in her hair. Maggots. Her stomach was full of her own feces.
Likely eaten from the couch, was found in their home. Lacy was disabled, but investigators say she was ignored by her parents while she just sat on the family's couch and was never properly cared for. How long was she there? Investigators say 12 years. Prosecutors are expected to request a 40-year prison sentence for those parents.
Do you think they will get 40 years? If they didn't want to take care of her, they could have easily found a home for her to go to. 12 years she was on that couch. And they went ahead and they pled guilty to manslaughter. I don't know that they're going to get 40 years. I don't know. They might be facing 40 years, but will they serve it? I mean, let's face it, at their age, they're not going to make it 40 more years on this planet anyway. And I know a lot of people say, how did the neighbors not smell it? Well, these houses are far away. These are nice brick houses. Okay. And, the houses are spaced out. They're not like, cracker box houses. Like there's one like right on top of another. This on Beighefield, which I did hear, thanks to Court K. Also, Court K sent me some money for CrimeCon. Thank you, girlfriend. That helped with merchandise immensely. Going there to meet and greet, meet you guys, give out some merchandise. That helped immensely. Yeah, Court K let me know that Beighefield was wearing black the other day, and then the next day was wearing gray. Well, I was actually going to tell her when I meet her this weekend that we color Beighefield. Georgia Diving Recovery said, good morning, all. I'm a new sub here. Well, welcome. Everybody give a huge warm welcome to Georgia Diving Recovery. Come on in. This is the coroner who had to come across Lacy's body. Just imagine.
Is someone who fought hard to get the Fletchers put behind bars since the day he processed that crime scene. Dr. Ewell Bickham was the coroner who performed Lacy's autopsy. He is here with me live now. Dr. Bickham, I am so sorry that you have had to endure this. Even in your line of work, I can't imagine there has been anything in your career like this. Take me to the moment that you first walked in on that scene.
Well, I walked in on the scene after Officer Dalton Corbin called me from Slaughter PD as I was dispatched. I arrived within 10 minutes. I arrived before Katie and ambulance there. When I got there, the officers, the first responders on scene were just in a daze. They were just standing there. They were on the outside. When I walked in, the house smelled of a stench of, it smelled like a sewer, a septic tank. and also a smell of death. I've never smelled that in my life. I've dealt with decomposed bodies.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Speculation Station said that's a nice ass house. Yeah, absolutely. He said, I walked in, it was like an open septic tank. He's processed a lot of people who are deceased. Never has seen anything like this. And for the smell to hit him, considering what he does for a living, that is just pure neglect. 12 years. It's not like she didn't get off the couch for a weekend or didn't get out of bed for a few days. She was sitting right on that couch in plain sight for 12 years.
I've dealt with all sorts of death, degradation, whatever. Never experienced this in all of my career.
And what did you witness Clay and Sheila doing as first responders, and you were there witnessing this horror?
When I walked through the door, to the right of me in the kitchen, Clay and Sheila Fletcher were standing there. Clay was standing there emotionless. The mom had her head between her knees. I saw a tear or two. To the left was the living room where Lacy was. I immediately went through there. I didn't stop and socialize with the parents. I went in there where Lacy was. And
I know this has got to be hard for you, even as a coroner.
When medical professionals, experts in their field, are breaking down about what they came across, you know it's bad. You know it's bad.
And even given what you have witnessed in your entire career, I read that you
it was tough.
Struggled processing this. You struggled for a week afterwards. You cried for a week. You couldn't eat for a week. Is that true?
That's true. It still bothers me today. And like I said, I've seen every kind of death there is. I've seen elderly people die of natural causes. I've seen suicides, homicides. I've seen everything there is. I've never seen a homicide like this. I have never seen an individual, a human being, literally tortured and allowed to die while she is alive. I've never seen that in my life. I've seen decomposed bodies of someone that drowns. You find the body a week later. That's one thing, and they're decomposed. Lacy did not decompose. She rotted in her own body, in that hole, in that sewer, in the couch.
What do we not see, Dr. Bickham, from the photos? Looking at the couch, looking at her falling into that couch, literally, it's hard to describe, but I will tell the viewers that under that blanket, she was cross-legged and she'd fallen over to her left, but she was cross-legged in that sewage hole. What do we not see? Because from the outside, the house looks beautifully appointed. The lawn is well cared for. The house is well cared for. It's diabolical that this is the scene inside.
It is. There were insect droppings, rodent, mouse droppings all over.
Mice droppings, insect droppings. She had maggots.
Yes.
Maggots.
The mantle near the fireplace. But talking about her legs being crossed, basically because of her condition, and this has been years, her legs were crossed because they were in contractures. What's what we call contractures. The muscles, tendons, bones just become so immobile from not being moved that they just stiffen and they stay that way. And she was like that in that position because she was in so much pain that she was trying to lift her body out of that hole because it hurt, it stung, it was horrible. She didn't have the energy to.
She was infected. She had wounds down, to her bones.
She melted into that couch.
She melted into that couch. She formed with it.
Lift her body out of that hole.
Was there food or water within reach? Was there anything that you could see that sustained this woman? As the parents said, they'd been away for the weekend.
The only thing I saw was a small bag of hard candy, some type of like butterscotch or just candy, peppermint type candy. And that was it. That's the only nourishment she probably had, because I'll just not try to be too graphic, but in her stomach, she had the yellow foam from the sofa and feces. So you take it from there.
She'd literally been pulling at the foam of the sofa and eating it.
Correct.
Thank you for watching.
That is a case that will always haunt me, because I will never understand how on earth you could let someone, I don't care what their age is, rot right in front of you. All right, for a little mood booster, it's Memorial Day weekend. DT Driver is home. Anybody up for a dad joke? Anybody? Anybody? All right. The jury's in. They're ready for a good dad joke. Go ahead, Gregory.
Well, good morning. Why did the old man fall down the well?
I don't know, Gregory. Why did the old man fall down the well?
Because he couldn't see that well.
Because he couldn't see that well. All right, before I shut down the show, we have celebrated Memorial Day. We have done some very important case updates.
Baby's birthday.
Avi's birthday, that's extremely important. Lucky for her, she gets to celebrate all week because she's off this week. I'm going to be bothering her all the time. Hang on. Rebecca said, nobody ever noticed when you think someone asked where she is. They assumed she had moved off and gone to college. She was in her 30s. You know? All right, so I'm going to bitch for a second. Rolling Stone magazine came out and said that the best country song is Jolene. Now, I think they're only doing this because Beyonce redid the song, and I am not going to listen to that shit. Have they heard anything else? Have they ever heard He Stopped Loving Her Today? Have they ever heard Coal Miner's Daughter? Have they ever heard Lukenbach, Texas? Have they ever heard Seven Spanish Angels? And I don't want the Dolly people coming after me, but that is in no way, shape, or form the best song. Just take a listen at this. Tell me what you think is better. And look at that. Tears ran dry. Said I used to cut and style George Jones' hair back in the 1980s. Wow. That must have been something else. But I'm pretty pissed at Rolling Stone magazine for doing that, saying Jolene's the best country. I've been bitching at Greg about it all weekend as if it's his fault. My goodness. I'm sure you guys will hear more about it, because when I start beating that dead horse, I bring it back to life and beat it dead again. However, I want to say thank you very much. I know today is a very, very busy day. You're going to the lake, we're barbecuing, we're getting the garden ready, whatever, or just laying on our ass, enjoying the day off. But I want to say thank you so much for Rebecca, Micciolo, Corey's grandma, for being in here. I want a huge round of applause for Rebecca for everything she has done to advocate for her grandson, Corey. Feel the love, Rebecca, because you are appreciated, you are loved, you are honored, you are looked up to in this community for everything you've done. As are all of you, because you're the absolute best. Absolute best. I say it every day. I mean it every day. You're not just the best chat in community on these nasty YouTube streets, filthy gutters. You're the best friends anyone could have. So thank you for being here. Have a very happy, 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 and safe Memorial Day. Enjoy, and I'll see you back here sometime tomorrow. I don't know what time, but just keep your reminders on. Make yourself a note. Keep your reminders on, and we'll be chatting tomorrow.